Hello everyone and welcome to that second video in the series where I do parallels between the movie Adieu Bonaparte and the upcoming GMT game Napoleon in Egypt. In this video we will cover the ambush mechanic. And we will start with a short clip from the movie. We will actually resume right from where we stopped last time. If you watched the first video of the series, remember the French soldiers were trekking through the desert and they saw what they thought was water on the horizon, but it was actually a mirage. And now they are running aimlessly in the desert, chasing the water that doesn't exist. And they are about to get ambushed by Mamluk soldiers. So I'm going to play this very short 10-second clip. And at the end, you're going to see the Mamluk soldiers appear in the background and start firing at the French soldiers. Here come the Mamluks. And I'm gonna stop it here right as General Caffarelli shouts "Former les carrés," which is French for "form the squares," because we will be covering the infantry square formation in our next video because this is also portrayed in the game. But for now, I just wanted to show you a short example of one of the probably many ambushes that the French suffered in the Egypt-Syria campaign. So back to the game. How is that portrayed in the game? Well, in the game, each side can gain through events and various actions what we call espionage points, which is some kind of a currency, if you will, portrayed by black cubes. So espionage points, or EPs for short, they represent your espionage network, so your spies, your informants, your scouts, bribed villagers, gossip from the population, whatever you can think of is abstractly represented by these espionage points. The more you have, the more you know about your enemy, and the better equipped you are to perform espionage actions against them or protect yourselves from espionage actions performed by them. So in that example, the Allied player has 6 EPs, the French has only 1, and one of the many espionage actions that you can undertake in the game is ambush. And let's say for the sake of this example that the Allied player wants to use Murad Bey's stack to ambush Bonaparte's stack, who just captured Mansoura here. So how does it work? Remember, it's a card-driven game. So say the Allied player just played the card Fire Destroys Cairo's Archives, and they played it for its action points, which is the number in the upper left of the card, which is 2 in that case. To perform an ambush action, the Allied player needs to spend 1 of the 2 action points or APs provided by this card. And specifically for an ambush attempt, there has to be an origin space and a destination space. So the origin space is Cairo, where Murad Bey's stack is sitting, and the destination space is where Bonaparte's stack is. So you count the number of spaces away both stacks are, and this is the minimum amount of EPs that the Allied player must spend to even attempt to perform an ambush. So they need to spend 2 EPs in order to attempt it. And how many EPs they have left, they can spend them to get bonuses on their die roll and to maximize their chances of a highly successful ambush. So in that case, they're going to spend all 4 EPs that they have left. And the French player can now also defend, spending EPs of their own, which again represents, I guess you could call it a counter-espionage network in that case. So the French player is going to spend his lone espionage point to protect themselves from the Allied player ambush attempt. Now, how do we resolve this? So we've been through all that. The active player may spend any number of additional EPs. It's 4 in our case. The non-active player may spend any number of EP, 1 in our case. The active player is going to roll 1d6, and they're going to add 2 to the result for every additional EP spent. So in our case, the allied player is going to roll 1d6 and add 8 because they spent 4 additional EPs. Now, obviously, if Bonaparte's stack would have been here, only a single EP would have been necessary since there is only one space between the two stacks. Only one EP would have been necessary to conduct the ambush attempt, and the remaining 5 EPs could have been used to get a plus 10 DRM in that case. So the closer you are to the target, the easier it is to set up an ambush. The farther away your troops are, the harder it is to go in there unnoticed and be able to spring a successful ambush. But in that case, Nappy was 2 spaces away. So again, it's going to be 1d6 plus 8 for the allied player. Now the non-active player, the French in that case, rolls 1d6. They get to add 1 for each EP spent. Remember, they spent 1. 1 if a friendly general is in the destination space. That's the case. 1 if the destination space is friendly controlled. Only fortified spaces in this game can be friendly controlled. Thankfully for the French, Bonaparte is sitting in Mansoura, which is a fortified space, and it's controlled by the French because they are the only ones occupying it. So they will get that +1. And the French would also have gained +1 if the space was favorable to the French. Unfortunately for them, that's not the case. Public order is something that we will cover in a later video. It represents the hearts and minds of the local population, whether they support the French, the Allies, or neither of them. In that case, Mansoura just fell, so its local population is still pretty much supportive of the Mamluks. So the French does not get that beneficial DRM. So it looks like 1d6 plus 8 for the Allied player, and 1d6 plus 1, 1 for a general, 1 for a controlled space. So 1d6 plus 3 for the French. So we're going to roll after all, because why not? So the Allied player rolls a 4, so 4 plus 8 is 12 total, and the French player is going to roll a 4 as well. So 4 plus 3 is 7. So 12 minus 7, so you take the ambushing player's result minus the defending player's result. You come to a number, and you compare that number, and it's a bit small maybe for you, but you cross-reference that number here in the ambush table. So between 5 and 8, in our case, the active player, which is the allied player, gets to eliminate either 1 elite or drilled unit from the space, or up to 2 average mediocre units from the space. So it doesn't sound like much, but you will soon realize in this game, especially for the French player, every single unit that you lose is a tragedy, because no reinforcements are coming to back you up. So losing a French regular is always dramatic for the French. So it was a modest result, I guess you could say. It did cost the Allied players 6 EPs and the French player only 1. Of course, if you can catch, for instance, the French player unaware in an open space without a general closer to the origin space, of course the results are going to be more favorable to you. There is also one card that I want to talk about before we close out the video, and that card is aptly named Ambush. It's a reaction card, so it's a card that you can play when an opponent's formation enters a space during a movement action. So say the allied player is holding that card and Bonaparte wants to press on and move to Cairo, and they move here, then the allied player could interrupt their movement to play that reaction card, and it says to perform 2 successive ambush attempts on the moving formation. Each attempt gets a +2 to the roll in addition to the EP that the allied player could spend. And if the ambush result would be lower than 0, they treat it as 0 instead. And that's relevant because if you roll poorly enough that you when you subtract the numbers, you end up below 0, The ambushing player loses a unit from their space because the ambush went so poorly that they were caught with their pants down or whatever, and they are the ones losing, suffering from more casualties, and not the destination space in that case. And now in our example, both players would be out of EPs, and it would probably be a race among all the other priorities that you have to stock up on more EPs, because now each player is very vulnerable, having no EPs to defend themselves. Each player is very vulnerable to espionage actions. So in the typical card-driven, tense decisions that you need to make, stocking up on EPs is part of a lot of things that you can do, like moving formations and all that stuff over the course of a turn. So I'm gonna end the video here. Next time we're gonna talk about the infantry square formation and how that's portrayed in the game. So hope you will join us in the third video of the series. Thanks and bye.